good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. How are you this morning, Christos? I know. Yeah. Yeah, it is fun. You know, we figured it's worth a shot, right? If nothing else. Oh no, I wonder what's going on. Your prayers have been answered. I wonder why not. I mean, you're there. I can hear you. Yeah, I don't know. Hang on a sec. Let me check and see. I mean, everything seems okay. I don't know why. I don't know why we can't hear you. Seems a little strange. Hey, Bolt. Yeah, I don't know. It is a little strange. Hang on a second, everybody. Let me see if I can get Christos's noise back. I don't know why. It seems like everything that we have works 80% of the way. Like nothing just works all the way through, you know. I still don't have your audio. Yeah, it's weird. I have your video, but I do not have your audio. Yeah. Either Skype doesn't work, or something else doesn't work, or I don't know. It's always something, or seems like it's always something around here. I don't know why. But I will get it sorted out. So just hang on a sec. Use a second device. What does that mean? Well, I can hear you. That's what's weird about it. I don't know why I can hear you and nobody else can. Well, let's see. I'm so tired of these, just like always these random things. You want to join? You want to rejoin Skype? See if that sorts it out. All right. Always something around here. A little frustrating. I don't know why. If somebody can make reliable streaming that does not completely kill people's machines, I think they'll make tons of money. No, I still can't hear you. I can hear you, but I don't think they can. So... yeah, I don't know. I guess I have to figure something out. Yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't I don't get it. Everything seems fine. I see you, I hear you. But for whatever reason, why don't you just you wanna just call me directly on Skype instead of joining? Let's try that. Maybe. I mean, that's the only thing that changed since last time, so maybe that's all it is. Okay. Anything? No. No, it doesn't look like it. I literally changed nothing. I left it exactly the way that it was before. I've literally changed nothing since last time. You can try OBS Ninja, I guess. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's not. This is certainly less than ideal. Especially if everybody gets to come and do it with us. See you there. All right. Well, I guess we'll try one more thing, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then I don't know.
Air.
No.
4 viewers.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hasn't been fully proven. No audio. Yes. Boom. They can hear me
Okay.
now.
They can hear you.
Hey, hey.
I can hear you.
Whee!
guess we're-
Graph TNT's excited.
I guess we made it.
One way or another. So, Skype?
Anyway, what a circus. I don't know. Supposedly, so the Learn Live people were telling us that NDI 5 is coming out. And supposedly that's supposed to fix everything. You know, we've heard that before. So,
Do we
I
not need
don't
to
know.
get a special exception for Teams to be included in the thing?
we do. That's the problem. We can't
Yeah.
use Teams. So, anyway, so good morning 6 minutes later.
6 minutes later and having troubleshooted this morning, it's always fun starting the day like this.
Yeah.
Green freeze and
So anyway.
sugar rush, excited. Eating ice cream. Oh man, I've been eating a ton of ice cream lately. I get the whole tab and I finish it. It's not good. I'm telling you.
How big is the tub that you finish?
It was like the 230 ml or like what the six yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty big. A half gallon?
Yeah, no, not the big ones. You know the usual Ben and Jerry's kind of a.
Oh, like a
size.
pint. It's a pint.
Is that a pint?
I think it's a
Is that a
pint.
pint of ice cream?
I think it is a pint.
Who cares about numbers? Somebody said numbers are made up anyway. Math is something that people made up trying to explain the universe. And just because the universe doesn't give a shit about our math doesn't mean that it's not real.
It is. It's a pint.
It is fine. That's awesome. Did you know that there's this massive debate going on that 0.9 repeat is equal to 1 and people having a fit on the internet about the fact that 0.999999999 or whatever is not equal to 1, and then the mathematicians go on to prove the point that it is, and it's crazy.
I haven't seen this. What? So
Oh,
wait a minute.
Oh, you're missing out.
Wait a minute. So somebody says that 0.9 with a
Repeats.
line over it
Yes.
is.
Equal to 1.
How does that work?
Because
Don't let my son hear this because I'll never hear the end of it.
so the whole point is that if you're comparing numbers, like let's say 0.9 to 1, there can be an infinite numbers between 0.9 and 1. But between 0.9 repeat and 1, there cannot be an infinite set of numbers, and therefore they equal to 1.
I mean, I guess because that's the whole point, right?
Yes.
Is that because the 9 repeats, there would
Yes.
never be any room for. Yeah.
Correct.
Because
it's-
you can't subdivide the 9. The
it's
last
breaking
9.
your brain, man. That's what I'm telling you. It breaks your brain when that happens because
You know, let me tell you, I think the people who came up with this are also the people who came up with date math. Because it's absolutely miserable.
you know all the numbers that you know. I'm just gonna prove them wrong. It's like insane. All the maths that you learn throughout your life, I'm just gonna use one theorem and break you, and then you'll never be able to do math again.
Yeah, it was.
They came up with time zones. Yes, freaking time zones.
And not only that, like I think we need to pick standard time or not, and just move on. Like it's funny they call it standard time, and it's only for like 3 months out of the year. It's not very standard, if you ask me. If
Nope.
3/4 of the year is not standard, so
Oh, it's summertime. Winter time. in between time.
No, we should all be. I mean, time zones would be workable. They'd be tolerable if we didn't have summertime, or standard time, or daylight saving time, or whatever, like whatever name you want to give it. Because then there's like one county in Arizona that's like, we don't want to do that, so they just don't do it. And then there's a county in like Indiana, which is like a half an hour time zone shift. So it's like theirs is like plus 6 or minus 6.5 hours from UTC, and it's just like, I don't know.
Everybody
give
should be
up.
at the same time. It doesn't matter. Like, so it could be, let's say, 2 p.m. in the U.S., Seattle, and then it should be 2 p.m. in Greece, but it could be the middle of the night. It doesn't really matter. Everybody calls it 2 p.m. It would make our lives so much easier. You just get it out. Like, if you were born in Greece, then 2 p.m. for you was in the middle of the night. Would that not be awesome? Doesn't matter. You don't have to change time zones. Never ever calculate them.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess what we'll end up doing is we're just going to say, you know what, from here on out, we'll just refer to everything let's just refer to everything in UTC.
Yes.
I think my air conditioner just shut off, Bolt.
Oh no! What's the temperature there?
That's okay. Well, it's early and it's rainy today, so luckily the weather isn't too bad. But the past week, it's been horribly, horribly hot here. Just like,
Yes, and humid, right?
yeah, just not even real life,
But you're going on holiday next week, so I would probably be in holiday mode already. I'm surprised how you can hold it together for the
Oh.
last few days.
Just barely.
Barely. Okay.
I've been thinking about going to the beach for 3-4 months. The thing about beaches are, like, we don't own a beach place or anything, so we just go rent a place. But the way that all these beach places work is they're all full by January 1st. So in the dead of winter, you're like, what am I going to do for the beach this year? And then you have to start planning with everybody. And everybody just spent a bunch of money on like Christmas and stuff. So then everyone's like, I don't want to go there. It's too expensive, So then it's,
Yeah.
and then they like one of the places because we're going twice. We're going with my sister-in-law and then we're going with my family. But one of the places is nickel and diming everything. They're like, oh, you want towels? That's an extra $6 a towel per day. We're like, what? I can buy towels for less than $6 a
Yeah,
towel
man.
a day. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm not. I don't know. Where are you, Gruff TNT? That it's 95
I know.
because it was 95 here yesterday afternoon, and the heat index was like 110, and it was. Because the dew point was like 83 degrees. And
Maybe you guys are neighbors. You don't even know it.
so
Oh,
Bruce
near
Lane is
France.
in France, and Gruff is in
Riviera.
Croatia.
I've been there. It's stunning. Croatia is apparently is stunning. And I grew up in Greece. I did not know that Croatia is so beautiful. I should have visited there when I had a chance. We'll definitely come and visit one day. I know it's very has a lot of history. Has some fantastic beaches because it faces the Mediterranean. So if you are in Europe, I would definitely urge you to go and visit Croatia. It's a fantastic place, and then Greece, obviously.
Yeah.
Although we have people on the Microsoft Developer, let's not forget our friends from Microsoft Developer. HHVV970. How do I pronounce that? What is that? Some hacker. Well, he's talking about flat earthers. Yeah, so if you have to fly, the plane will just go around and then just land in the same place, and they will call it French Riviera, apparently. Isn't it not insane that there's this conspiracy that planes just fly around in circles and then land in a different place to pretend that you've been flying around the Earth? It's just like, sometimes
What?
yeah, have you not heard because flat earthers say, well, planes don't really, have to circumvent the Earth. They just fly straight and then do circles and then land, and they pretend that they have taken you to the other side of the world.
I think so. So here's the thing, because there've been a lot of conspiracies flying around for the past 4 years, at least in the United States. But there've been a lot of conspiracies flying around, right? And I think the thing that always gets me is that the same people that come up with these crazy conspiracies, also the same people who think that every government is completely incompetent, and yet
Yes.
somehow these completely incompetent governments. They managed to build these amazingly complex conspiracies that 260 other governments all participate in, and it's never come out that they're it just. I don't know. I find
And
that
all the scientists as well, not just the government, the scientists.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Because
Everyone's
everybody's
a
in
paid
on it.
actor as well. I mean, Hollywood
Yeah.
must be beaming with.
I
business
don't,
is booming, man.
yeah, I just don't, I don't know. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm not saying I need to understand either. So if you believe that, the earth is the earth is flat or whatever, I don't need to know that you believe that because
We are inclusive. Bring it on.
but
We're also paid actors to pretend that
That's
their
right.
identity. Yeah,
that's right.
So don't.
Yeah, I haven't gotten my flat earth check this week either. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna just expose it all right now.
Nice.
So although
Yeah, go on.
even if the Earth was flat, I mean, I guess that would mean. So if the Earth is flat, is it still spinning? I guess so, like a coin, right? It's still spinning like a coin. So that means that even though it's flat, we would still probably have some concept of a time zone because it wouldn't turn. It doesn't just like flip one day. It's not like at a certain time of day, or it just snaps and it lights out. So that would mean we'd still end up with time zones because we'd still turn kind of slowly, and you wouldn't get the whole sun. It's just that it's
But you know what happens if you have a flat surface and you spin things around, right? Everything just flies out of the pan.
That's true.
So how do they explain gravity? Now I want to know how they explain gravity.
Now here's the other thing: if you spin a flat thing enough, it looks like a sphere.
True.
So if we took a coin and spun it, it would look like a sphere from the outside.
Yes.
So maybe that's what
you're
it
onto
is.
something. You're
Yeah.
onto something.
There you
Oh
go.
man. And then
Yep.
if you're spinning it like this, then you're actually having, centrifugal sources that actually pull you towards
That's
the middle.
right.
Oh,
I know.
you explain gravity for flat earthers. Man,
I mean,
our channel
There it
gonna
is.
go
Well,
viral.
this is how conspiracies are born. I think I can hear David Attenborough getting into his black helicopters right now. He's going to come over and firebomb my house.
Oh man.
Planet
If you
Planet
just
Flat
joined the
Earth.
stream. If you just joined the stream. Oh, we're confusing people.
Yeah, see, we'd have exactly 12 hours. Well, no, that's the code what Sean says. Well, 1st he says that flat earthers have members all around the globe, which indeed they do. The
Need
Earth
alcohol
would
for
be
this discussion. It's way too early for us to have alcohol. Or is it? Who knows what's in here? That's why
Yeah,
it's
speak-
not translucent.
Speak for yourself. It's like Corey Weathers' 5 p.m. show, just at 8 a.m. for you.
8 a.m. Yeah, it's never. I mean, it's with time zones. It's 2 p.m. somewhere, right? Or 5 p.m. somewhere.
That's
right?
exactly. In fact, and it's 2:30 somewhere, and it's 4:35 somewhere too,
Exactly.
because of time zones. So Yeah, the interesting thing about time zones is so my in-laws live in Michigan, which is on the is very far east in the Eastern time, or sorry, very far west in the Eastern time zone. And so when we go up there in the summer, the sun doesn't set until like 10:15 at night, which can be a bit of a pain when you have children because they're like, "Well, it's not dark yet, Dad." And you're like, "Look, it's 9:30. You need to go to bed. Leave me alone."
I
But
know
no.
it's hard. It's hard. We used to have blackout curtains back in the UK because in Scotland it wouldn't set until 11:30.
Blazer, Mr. Magoo, I think he's cracked it open. Or she.
Yeah, man, he ruined it. You ruined
Yeah.
flat Earth theory now. You debunked
Yeah.
the whole thing
Yep.
in one
The
sentence.
whole thing. Yeah. If the Earth was flat, the cats would have pushed everything off the edge. It's very true.
I wonder if we're going to lose all our followers or if we're going to gain some new, new exquisite
Interesting.
ones.
Exquisite. Special ones.
Hey, we appreciate all our followers.
That's right. But if you think that the Earth is flat, we probably won't be super nice about it here anyway.
See, we started with science. We started with 0.9 repeats equals 1. And we ended up in flat Earth. It's insane.
This isn't the first time this has happened either. Have we created a new internet rule, like the 425 rule, that inevitably every conversation gets back to baseless conspiracy theories?
We always do that. Maybe it's a problem with us, not
Maybe
a problem with the internet. Could be
Rule
worse. Could be
420.
headed to towards 1940s Germany kind of discussion.
Rule 425.
Yes, Rule 425.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd like to live on a flat Earth. Because what if we all piled up onto one side? Would we tip over? Would it spin faster if we all got on one side, like a bus? And where's the edge? Where is the edge of Earth?
Well, we haven't discovered it yet. Oh man, we
Here they come. Here
yes,
come the
see?
here come the spammers.
Well, it's
They
the
heard somebody
conversation
talk-
that we're having.
They heard somebody talking about flat Earth. They're like, "Oh man, these people are right. We're gonna get them." Don't believe
they probably
anything.
have lots of followers. Supposed to be there.
Yeah, they probably do. You know, I was like flipping through YouTube or something the other day, and you know how YouTube is. YouTube kind of is like a flat Earth because you get to the edge and you're like, oh, lots of normal videos, and then you get to the edge of YouTube and you're like, wait a minute, what are these people talking about? And then you like, if you go any further, you fall off the cliff, and before you know it, you're, you know, up to your eyeballs in conspiracy theories. So, you know, there might be a
liking that
wall.
one.
But if there's a wall at the edge of the world, where does the rain go? I guess it goes back into the ocean.
Did the Mexicans pay for it? Is it too early? Is it too soon?
Well, they told everybody that Mexico was going to pay for it, but inevitably they did not.
They did not. That's why they never built a wall, so everybody's falling off the cliff. Oh my
Yeah.
God, we're gonna be banned now for political and
How many,
science
repo-
reasons.
how many reports do you think we've gotten? Well, that's the thing. That's the problem. Is in the absence of in the absence of humor, like satire is completely indistinguishable from craziness. So the
Well-
fact that I mean, think about if somebody was to clip us justifying flat Earth.
Damn.
We'd be in trouble. They'd come after us.
It goes viral. Underworld underscore no says the edge of the earth is where 0.999 repeat meets one.
It's perfect. It's
Thank
perfect. We couldn't pay for
Problem
that.
solved. See,
Yep.
I mean, all our conspiracy now has the theory and a proof,
So
and
if
we're good.
so, Underworld. So if you're Underworld, does that mean you are on the underside of the flat world, like where it's always dark? I guess.
Flipped. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Never sees the light of day.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, to be quite honest, trying to figure out flat Earth is probably easier than figuring out OAuth 2 if you've never done it before.
Well, I wouldn't put them in the same bucket, but
OAuth 2 is not a conspiracy theory. That's true.
well, now you say that's what all conspiracy theories say.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, I'll tell you what. If somebody gets to the edge of the flat Earth, you give us a call at 1-877-AZURE-AD because we want to put you on the show. We want to hear.
will.
We
We
want to
will.
hear what it's like at the edge of
Your
the Earth.
experience. Yeah.
Is that like beyond the narrow sea and past Westeros, or like where is that? Where is the edge of the Earth today?
Oh, what are we doing today, Mr. MLX? We're really sorry if you just joined because this will sound extremely confusing. We just debunked flat Earth theory. And we're at
Yeah,
different-
somehow we ended up on flat Earth, so we're trying
We
to
started
figure
with
out
math.
flat Earth.
Hey,
We started with math.
math. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
we use Python to see 0.999 is equal to 1 in the underworld.
that's true.
Ooh.
That would be interesting. Well, I mean, Python has the best math library available, right?
Does, and it's fast.
NumPy is. I don't know if it's NumPy, if it's NumPy. I don't know how people pronounce it, but it's sort
Is
of
that the library name?
That's what everybody uses apparently especially for data and for doing math.
Allegedly.
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 I mean, I guess if you had what if you had a flat Earth,
Uh-huh.
but you stacked them on top of each other on both sides, and they got concentrically smaller as you went up, right?
Almost like
And then you did that on both sides.
Ooh, I like this science.
Yeah.
Give me some. Yeah.
It
There are
would
lots
make
of
a whole
layers,
lot,
right?
It'd make a lot of sense.
Over millions of years stacking these layers.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe in the middle, because the forces are coming from all sides. Maybe in the middle, there actually is a ball somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you stack smaller and smaller and smaller layers, that's
That's
amazing.
true. I did see yesterday where someone said, I guess they've done some research and they find that people who do programming as a career score better in language than they do in math, and that this thing about math being a prerequisite to engineering, software engineering or software programming is, I guess it's starting to become a little bit of a myth, because while maybe that was true 30 years ago when you're designing, yeah, and I'm sure if you're designing hardware and that sort of thing, math is of course super, super important because there is so much math involved at the lower levels. But that programming as we do today, in terms of writing application software and even writing system software to a degree, is driven more by language ability than it is mathematical ability, which I thought was really interesting.
Looking at my career trajectory, I have to say that I was never. In fact, I had classical studies when I was in school. It's the last 2 years, you have to choose what you want to do. So I did.
Well,
ancient
but you're
Greek
Greek,
and Latin.
isn't that just history for you?
And history, yeah. No, because you have to choose your kind of path, is it? And back then it was science, and then it was social studies, then it was history and language. So I chose history and language. So finishing high school, I was very classically educated, and I didn't do lots of maths in the last 2 years. So my math is okay, I guess.
And somehow you ended up stuck with me every day.
Well, you got music studies there. I mean, we're the perfect couple there when it comes to
We can go.
software
We can
engineering.
go. We can go sing some Baroque tunes about, with some ancient Greek gods about software.
We
Oh,
can make a musical
identity.
of Iliad. How about that?
We couldn't call it Hamilton. What would we call it?
Ulysses? Ulysses Adventures.
Oedipus.
Yeah, that would not be good. Anyway, and
Anyway.
when I went to apply to university, a few universities said, "Well, you don't have a good math background because I didn't do math for the last 3 years of school." Okay, okay. And then I went to one of the universities that accepted me. They were not really heavy on math. There was no prerequisite, and we only had one math course in the 4 years I was in university. I mean, it was 2D programming, which was okay. We learned about vectors and stuff. But I haven't used math. Like I haven't had the need to use any hardcore math in the 17 years I've been writing software. There was one job where we're doing some financial calculations, but these math calculations would come from the financial analysts, and they would explain what they wanted to do, like which figures map to which math formulas, right? And then we would just implement that. So even there, we never really had to do math. So
Yeah.
it's
Interesting.
I think it's a myth. You don't need math these days. Maybe if you're doing 3D programs, maybe if you're doing games development, you need to understand vectors, right? Yeah, like shaders and working in things that actually require object interaction, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I did some Kinect work years and years ago, like with the the Xbox Kinect, and there's a lot of math there. And I was never like particularly bad at math, but was never particularly good at it. It was fine. It wasn't like a super student in math, but wasn't in a bad one either. So
I mean, I
And-
think it comes down to practice, right? Isn't it like the more you practice and the more you work with the math, the better you become? In Greece, there was this kind of it's an innate ability, so if you don't understand math, you'll never understand them, which was very bad for anybody's confidence.
it's true. Blue Booger says that they played Kinect 4 as a kid. I love Kinect 4.
Yes.
I play it with my kids all the time. I absolutely love it. Especially because a 5-year-old, she's just like, I don't think she fully quite gets it yet. So it's just, so before you know it, the whole thing is full and there are not 4 in a row anywhere.
Is that not the whole point? Are you saying I'm playing Connect 4 wrong?
Well, it's getting to be 11:30. What should we do today, Christos? What do you want to do today?
Oh man, I'm not ready to do. I mean, unless you guys want to see 2000 era UIs with Python, which we could do. I think playing around with graph and calendars would probably be more valuable to our viewers.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I have one little bit of news today, which we can look
Okay.
at. We'll have more.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have
drop the credits.
We'll have some more news soon. So, we do have one piece of news, which is that of course, ADAL, if you're using ADAL, ADAL, the Active Directory Authentication Library, which is what you used with Azure AD for a very long time, has been deprecated finally, and next summer you need to be off of it. So you've got about 12 months because
Yes.
I believe it is June 30th of 2022. Support ends for that. So we're 53 weeks away from that. So you have 53 weeks to get your project plan ready, and then when you're ready, 4 weeks before, on June 1st of 2022, when you're ready to do it. Anyway, so to speed this along, I guess, we've added some reports into some monitoring workbooks for Azure AD. So you can go to your Azure AD portal and you can see the apps that are still using ADAL and ones that are still using Azure AD Graph. So Azure AD Graph was the old graph that was used in terms of like manipulating users and groups and all that sort of stuff before Microsoft Graph. It's still out there and it still works. But it's been deprecated too. So by next summer, you got to be off of ADAL. You got to be off of Azure AD Graph, not the Microsoft Graph. So we got some more workbooks for monitoring that will show you which applications are using ADAL still. And the trick here is you may have applications that are still using ADAL. And if you have ADAL apps, then you should be migrating them, and you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help with any resources or anything we can in regards to migrating off of ADAL. You may also be using libraries that have a dependency on ADAL. And we know of, some of the larger ones. Hey, Juan P. Flores. Thanks for joining us on Microsoft Developer. You may have apps that are using ADAL and you don't know it because you're not explicitly taking an ADAL dependency, but you're taking a dependency on a library that is doing it. If that's the case, of course, we know about a lot of the big libraries and a lot of the Microsoft libraries that are using ADAL, and we're working with those teams to get those sorted out. But if you come across one that is not, if you come across a library that you're dependent on and it's a smaller library, or perhaps it's something that's open source or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us on Discord. You can find us on Twitter and 45show@microsoft.com, and we will be happy to help. We'll be happy to help those folks who own those libraries you're dependent on get those sorted out. So it's gonna be a big deal. We're probably gonna end up talking about it a lot this year anyway, just because it's gonna happen next summer. And instead of us spending our summer putting out fires of, oh my god, my app quit working, oh my god, what am I going to do? Instead, it'd probably be better to go ahead and get started now. So anyway, so this is this blog post. This is the thing. So Juan is lurking around for some dev channels, and ours popped up, so that's cool. So yeah. In other news, what is it? 2 days from now on Thursday?
Yes.
There's the big Windows event.
Yes, can't wait for it. Although you're cheating because you're already running the preview pirated bits.
Not on this machine.
No, I would never run it on the main one. It would definitely be a standalone, random, not the main join machine. But
I kind of feel like signing into a bootleg ISO from the with an account from the company that it was bootlegged from is got to be some sort of a Darwin award.
It is, and
Like-
it's almost like pushing your luck a little bit with MSIT.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've shown you the evidence bag, right, where they took my stuff and they took my Raspberry Pi and they put it in an evidence bag like it was a hair found at a crime scene. I was like, what is this? Come on. It's not like I left behind a bloody knife. But I don't know. Like, I guess obviously like Windows there'll be a big Windows announcement. I've heard on the rumor mill that there's a lot of chatter about like a second Surface Duo.
Oh
So,
yes.
yeah. So I don't know. I sold my Surface Duo, so I don't have it anymore.
So maybe Windows 11 running on the Surface Duo.
That would be cool. Although I don't think there are enough. I don't think there are enough apps for Windows that I would want to run on a phone. I don't know, like-
Morris is excited about the Duo. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I crumbled and went back and got that foldable Galaxy again.
What?
I knew you were gonna.
What?
I can feel
we had
the
a whole
judgment.
debate last week about that. You were like,
know.
"Oh yeah, it doesn't work for me." And,
I know.
What is it with you? Multiple personalities here. Which
know.
JP am I getting this morning?
I don't know. It was weird. I took it back and I was like, okay, I'm good to go. And then I don't know.
I felt guilty.
I was like, damn, I actually kind of liked it. Like maybe it was an impulse buy and it was an impulse return, and then it was like, actually maybe I kind of like this. So anyway.
So what, did you sell your Pixel again?
No, I've still got the Pixel.
Man, you're
I'll
collecting
probably-
phones. What
I'll
are
probably-
what are you doing with all these phones?
No, I just got the Pixel fixed because I had a broken screen. I'll probably still take the Pixel. I'll probably take the Pixel to the beach because I'm pretty sure that the sand at the beach is probably like the very last thing this thing needs to be close to.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure that's like a fast track to breaking it.
Put it in an evidence bag. It doesn't get.
Hey, I just happen to have one. Seal's been broken, but whatever.
People are saying, wait a minute, we thought Windows 10 is going to be the last one. And it's funny how this story spread. Did you know that it was a developer advocate that said it at some point and then it became a thing?
What?
Because
Said
Microsoft
what?
never officially said that Windows 10 was going to be the last operating system version that we're going to release. Which
Okay.
is crazy because everybody thought that.
Is Windows 10 the last Windows? Okay, now PC Mag says Windows 10 will be the last major version. Oh yeah, some guy made an announcement at the company's Ignite conference in Chicago.
Yes. It's insane.
Huh.
Some guy said it and then it became a thing.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago.
I wonder who that developer advocate was because now I want to know.
Jerry Nixon. His name is literally at the top of the.
Oh, is it? Is it Jerry?
Yeah, right.
I didn't see
Jerry Nixon. I don't know who Jerry
I know
Nixon
Jerry.
is, but
Oh, you don't know Jerry? He's done an insane
don't.
amount of stuff with Windows GUI, Windows UI, Windows apps, HoloLens, WPF. He's the dude. I can't believe they don't know.
I mean, is it going to be called Windows 11? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be called. I mean, clearly there's going to be something. I just don't know what it is.
I don't know. We should
Maybe they'll
name
just call
after
it seems like it'd be a lot
Windows
easier to
Sierra.
just call it Windows.
Windows Sierra.
Seems like it'd be easier just call it Windows and let's move on.
I'm saying Windows Sierra because it will be a hybrid between Windows and Mac. You know?
So Windows 11, when will it launch? Is it even real?
Well, apparently some people have been running some kind of a rogue version of Windows. You know what? Maybe it's just some random person that created this kind of a Windows UI-like operating system. He just downloaded the ISO and installed it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Lord only knows what that ISO has done to my machine that it's running on. I mean, that ISO says Windows 11. I'm not saying it, but I don't know if that's going to be the actual name or not. So
These days, people are good with Photoshop, can do amazing stuff.
it's true. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Windows 10 Flat Earth Edition. Thanks, Blazer, Mr. Magoo. I think that's a good idea. That's what we should. If they aren't calling it that, which there's no way to know. If they're not calling it that, I think we should probably try to bubble it up.
Can somebody confirm that my sound is coming low? Because Caparino is complaining.
I'll turn you up a little bit.
He is right. I feel the pain, Caparino. That's every time
What?
the JP shares the screen. I
What
am
are
a
you-
bit low. Look
what
at
is
that.
every-
You're keeping me on the low side.
I just turned you up some, so we'll see what happens. Is
Oh,
it
don't
clipping?
start coding without dropping the credits.
Is it
drop the credit.
Just hang on. Is it clipping now, Juan? I think Juan says it's clip. Oh no, I'm not sure if he's telling me that it's clipping or if he's trying to clip this whole thing, but
It's a
clip our whole interaction. So okay. Let me. I'm going to turn you up to 125. So it should be a quarter louder than you are now.
Turn me to 11. You have to be. I have to be at 11.
But you're always at 11 anyway.
Is there any more in the crank scale? 11 and a half?
No, it's just your face. All the way at
You're a
11.
bit
It's
soft
just.
for me.
It's
I'm
all
a
the way
bit
at 11.
soft. What does soft mean? I feel offended now. Why am I soft? I mean, I'm working on my hard image. Like I've got the beard, I've got the. What do you mean soft? Getting turned up live on the stream. What?
Well, I turned your volume up, so maybe you'll be a little louder now.
You don't want me too loud?
You could just be really shouty. Oh, man. Anyway, okay. So are we gonna write some code today, or I mean, we don't have to.
I think we're getting paid to write some code from time to time, so maybe we should
Sometimes.
write- sometimes. Right? Okay. Too much fun this morning.
All right.
Afternoon. Yeah. Tell us. Give us a context. What are we doing there?
Okay. So we have a website which we actually haven't announced, but we're gonna go take a look at it anyway. It's called.
I have
40
announced. I have
Oh, okay.
announced it.
It's
But it's
called
fine. Go again.
42. It's 425show.dev, right?
Yes.
And it's got a bunch of info about us and the show and how to get connected to us and blah 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 blah, right? And look, these guys are live now. We should go see what they're doing.
Oh, you fixed it. Nice.
I did. So we've got these upcoming activities. So we've got this calendar thing, right?
Yes.
More code has been written for this calendar than anything else on the website. By like a significant margin. And the reason is because, let me see if I can get my Notepad++ up here. The reason for that is ICS. So ICS, the iCal format, which
Yep.
to me is like some X12 EDI style calendar data.
Yes.
It is there's a library out there called iCal.js. iCal.js handles parsing this, and in all honesty, ICS is kind of preferable because it's easy. It's just a file that Outlook generates or that Exchange generates, and ICS is pretty universal. You can download an ICS on your phone, you can download one on your Mac, your Linux, your Windows. It doesn't really matter. You can probably download an ICS to your Android-powered Samsung refrigerator if you really wanted to, so that way you know when you're upstairs getting a beer that, oh my God, those guys are coming on. I better get 2 beers instead. So the problem with ICS is, like any standard, everybody implements it differently, and we are no exception. So
Yes.
the biggest problem I've had in trying to parse this ICS was dealing with 2 things: recurrence rules, our rules, and a recurrence rule is this is going to recur. So what that meant was originally our calendar on our webpage didn't show any. It didn't show any events that were created more than a week ago, even though a recurrence of that specific event would happen like this week. Like, for example, this show is happening this week. Even though that's happening, because the original start date was, 12 months ago when we first put the recurring meeting on the calendar, it didn't work. So then we have to do all this recurrence math to figure out, okay. And then there's also something called an X date, which is a thing that goes and says, skip this day for this recurring meeting. That alone, I found another library that handled the bulk of the recurrence rules and X dates for me, which was great. It's called iCal.js Expander. It's really, really nice little bit of kit. The second problem then were time zones. Because you'll notice Microsoft generated ICSs from Exchange use Pacific Standard Time. That's like the name of it, right? If we look for like the time zone object, you'll find a TZID. There's also a time zone, I think is what it's called, is the name of the thing. They use words like Pacific Standard Time, which make a lot of sense to Windows. They don't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to the rest of the world. So the rest of the world uses stuff like America /Los_Angeles or America _New York. So that has its own set of problems, we'll say, that we have to deal with.
Definitely. It's challenging.
So it also seems to be driven some by where the user is, the locale of the user that is creating the event. So because some of these events were put in by people on the West Coast, they show up as a Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time meeting. When I create one on the East Coast, they show up as an East Coast meeting. So it's like there's a
dependent on who creates the event on the shared calendar.
yeah. That's what it seems. That's what it seems like anyway. And if you forward a meeting from one place to the other or anything like that, I mean, you might as well just give up because there's no telling what's going to happen. Like,
Okay.
you wonder why Outlook, the app, is like 2 gigs. I'm sure that
That's
1.9 gigs of that is just
Rendering dates in the
literally a million if statements for trying to figure out how to render a date. Like the algorithm to render dates is probably more complex than every bit of machine learning that we have in the world combined. So anyway, ICS is a miserable format, and I was quite naive in assuming that I could figure out how to do anything with ICS. And the frustration has sort of slowly been building.
Okay.
I'm going to burn so much time figuring out the silly format that could be actually writing meaningful software that matters to customers and people. So, you'll also notice...
Deep breath. You can do this.
So the other thing, I don't know if I don't know. I hope you noticed because we spent some time doing it. But you may have also noticed that when the show started, that there's this new upcoming events thing that pops up underneath that shows us all of the shows you all the new stuff that's coming. Right.
Yes.
This is also driven by the same data, the same ICS data, and thus the time zones on this are pretty jacked up too. So there are quite a few statements in the code that runs this that's trying to generate and figure out, okay, like what time zone was this created in, and then trying to adjust it based on the locale time zone. That's going to be a real pain when if Christos and I start sharing, when we start sharing our layouts and stuff, because now it's not going to work it's going to work for him completely differently than it works for me because his locale is going to be different. So anyway, rather than going through all this silliness, I thought, let's just do this with Microsoft Graph. It's just dumb otherwise, right?
I'm surprised that we didn't think about this sooner.
Well,
The fact that it's data.
I think it was
Minus
because
one.
originally, before we got into it, the website was a static website.
It was. You're right.
So we would pull the ICS at build time, parse the ICS, and stuff the stuff in there. And seeing as you and I are not designers, the designers, that was what they were familiar with, and that's what they were working on too. And so to some degree it was like, well, this is what they're comfortable with, so let's roll with it. But I think what we've learned is there's really just no replacement. Like you're just ultimately going to have an API behind some of these things.
Yep.
So in the graph, we have a calendars object. And I've got a calendar, so if I go open up my calendar here, there's a 425 show event calendar, right? So that's the calendar that drives all of our stuff, right?
Yep.
So that calendar is an Exchange calendar, which is great because it means that Christos and I can add events, and the other people on our team can add events, and all that sort of stuff. But the problem is it's not my main calendar, so it's got a big, long, ridiculous ID. Mm-hmm. So if we go to Graph and we go look at our calendars, and pull this up a little bit. If we go to Graph and look, we've got my main calendar, which is here, and then we've got this 425 show event schedule, which has this super long base 64 encoded something, which I'm kind of curious. I wonder what the base 64 encoding is. Base 64 decode. Watch it end up being a GUID, which would be kind of funny, actually.
Well, that would be fun.
If it's a base 64 encoded GUID, I don't know. Let's see. Let's decode it. It's definitely not a GUID. Okay. So we've got our calendar ID here, and then there's this really cool thing called Calendar View that you can use on here. So we'll do calendars, and then we'll do that calendar ID. That should get us back just the one calendar. And there it is. So we've got our calendar here. Nothing too wild. That's just the entity. So there's this really cool thing called Calendar View. In fact, you see it as it pop up in the autocomplete here. So Calendar View is going to expect 2 dates and times. It's going to expect the start date time, and it's going to expect an end date time. And the best part about this is that it essentially does exactly what it says on the tin. It gives you all the events that happen within this range of time. Recurrence, cancellations, all that be damned. It doesn't matter. It does it all for you. You get the same calendar view that you get in Outlook or your phone or whatever, right?
Nice.
And that's the thing. I'd love to set this to UTC, BSD guy. Like, I'd love to be able to create a meeting and say every meeting needs to be UTC, but in ICS is for they just don't do that. Yeah. Like, I'd love to have an ICS that's adjusted strictly to UTC. In fact, I thought about doing that, was taking our ICS and adjusting everything to UTC instead. Code with Sean lives in Central Daylight, which he calls correct date time. So we can also put an offset on our calendar view. So today is, let's see, 2021-06-22, and then let's do everything that started today, and then minus, I believe it's -0 is the format that we need. We'll have to, that's probably not the correct format. We'll have to go back and look. So let's get everything that's going to happen between 622, and we'll just do 622 and 623, I guess, to start. So that should just be the stuff that's happening today. And here we go. So the things that are happening today, we've got the 425 show. So that's good. And it's got, it's got all the regular calendar stuff. So it starts at 1500 UTC, which is 3 p.m. UTC, which is, because I'm -4, that's -4 for me. If we called it flat Earth time, it might have more traction. Yeah, that's true. We'll see everybody at 7 a.m. FET, flat Earth time. So we do get the date times in UTC out of the graph, which is wonderful, because it means that our API is going to get UTC times, and then we can rely on the browsers to adjust those times for local users. So a user who comes in is going to get their time adjusted based on their browser locale if you go to the 425 Show website. And when we call the API, we're just going to get straight up UTC times and dates, and then we can adjust them based on the time zones that we want to display. So we want to show Pacific time, we want to show Eastern time, and we probably want to show UTC, and we probably want to show Central Europe. Maybe we want to show a time for APAC or Eastern Europe or whatever too. But at any rate, we're going to get an unequivocal UTC date. It doesn't matter who created the meeting, when, and why they created it, and what machine they were using, and what the angle of the flat Earth was when they created it. It's just going to be, this is the time that this is the absolute point in time that this meeting is going to happen. So good. So we know our calendar view works, and if we were to take this and push our calendar date to, say, what's the end of the week? 22, 29. So that should be between now and next week. Now and next Tuesday. Then we've got the 425 show. We've got our friends who are going to be here tomorrow doing their IT Pro stuff. We've got our Friday show. And then we've got next Tuesday. So this is excellent because it's super helpful. And you'll see even it tells us the original time zones, but luckily we don't need to deal with it. Now the other thing is we don't need all this data. Yep. Right? So we're going to do a select at the end of this. And I think, let's see. So if we do a $select, and let's just pick out the fields that we need. We're going to need, we'll get the ID. We will get the subject. Mm-hmm. We will get perhaps the location, maybe. And then the start and end times. I think that's all we really need. So, ID. We need the ID. We need the subject. We need the subject. We need the start. We need the end. And we need the location. So let's run this query now and see what we get. You know, it's weird. Once I expanded it, it's like it only shows up in the expand block. It doesn't. I have to open the expand window to see the data.
Refresh the page then.
Let me copy this gnarly query out of here. We'll do that. So if we run this query now, we should get a significantly trimmed down version of the data that we had before. So we've got the learn live, but we've only got the ID, the subject, start and end times, the location that's here, and so we've got a much smaller chunk of data, which is good. So this is essentially the query that we need to run, and it means we're going to need to go and generate this. Now, the other side to this, the thing I have not tested, I wonder if we were to leave off an end date, if we would get everything. I don't think that's the case, but we can try it and see. No, so we have to give it an end window. Okay, so let's take this big ugly query and put this over here in Notepad for a minute. Now, really the biggest variable here, our calendar name or calendar ID will not change, but we'll still put that in settings somewhere in case you want to use this yourself. And then our start dates and end dates, we're going to have to generate those, and that should be fairly straightforward. At least it's easier in .NET than it is in something else. Now, the hard part here is going to be the permissions. Because there is a...
Yeah, we have a problem with that, right?
So a 0.1 with a line over it. 0.1 repeating. Is that essentially the same as 0? Because there's nothing in between it? Because while there's not zero chance that we would ever get this actually approved by corporate, it's as close to 0 as though it doesn't actually matter anymore. So instead, we have to, we got to be, what's the best way to describe it?
Resourceful.
Very good. That's a good one. So we have to be a little creative in how we're going to do this. So
see, this is where language comes into play. Who needs maths when you can be resourceful?
That's right. So we've got some code here, and this code actually runs our bot, which we haven't really worked on in a while. And it runs a lot of it. What? What's wrong?
Me? Everything is spinning.
Oh no! What happened?
On my end. Can you see that as well?
I see the spinning happening over here. I don't see it.
Oh no! Is it a restream?
It might be.
We're back.
Oh, we're back. Okay, good.
At 160p. The best resolution ever.
I guess we can. I don't know.
More P's.
There's so many problems today. It's kind of annoying, to be honest.
No, it's one of these days. It's okay.
We'll
roll with the punches. Come on, we can do this.
Is IAD? That's Dulles. That's DC, right? Or is that?
Is it melting away because of the hit?
Yeah, it might be. Okay, so we've got this. So we've got a bot, and I have to say, sadly, we've neglected it, and B, we've repurposed it to do a lot of extra things that it maybe necessarily wasn't supposed to be doing, but whatever. So there are two.
What is that? That's not Thrasman, is it?
No, this is our 425 bot.
Oh.
So this is the bot that handled muting us and stuff like that. And over time, because it picks up on hooks and a few other things, we've sort of added some extra configuration and stuff to this. Anyway, so we need to make a graph call is what this is going to come down to, right? So this is our function. I just kind of stubbed it out, but this is essentially the call that we need to make. Now, there are two different ways we could go about doing this. We could just create an HTTP client and go make it ourselves, option A. Or we could create a graph service client and do it with the Graph SDK. I think we should let the people choose. Do we use the SDK or do we just make raw HTTP requests? So I'm going to
vote. Tell us SDK, or can we make a? We can make a what's it called? A poll.
Yep, making it right now. So
nice.
We have 5 minutes to start this poll, and for those 5 minutes. We're going to take a really quick break so we can go get new drinks and use restrooms and everything else. So vote on which one you want us to do. If you want us to use the SDK or if you want us to do raw HTTP. And we will be back in less than 5 minutes.
Yes.
See you then. Y'all are sandbagging me.
Why?
Look at these results. It's 100% SDK.
Oh my God! How many votes though?
6.
Thank you all. Apparently, H. Russell says, "Are we picking between Christos or JP? Because Christos is SDK and JP is raw SDKT. So people choose me. The people have voted. Thank you.
I guess so.
Well, now you have to do SDK.
I guess so. I guess we have to use an SDK. Okay.
Although
well,
that means that you can't copy. Although you can copy the query from the SDK, isn't it? Just
Yeah, we can
go into Graph Explorer and grab it and paste it.
that's true. I didn't think about that. Well, so and like most things, it's not making the call that's the hard part. It's getting it set up to be able to make the call, right?
It's getting the permissions and the authentication done.
That's right. So yeah, so 600% of you voted for SDK. Wait a minute, I forgot to vote.
We're ruining math here. We're ruining math for everyone.
I forgot to vote. Oh well.
You
Anyway,
forgot to vote.
I should have voted. I wonder if I can vote 600%. Okay.
You'll never be elected. Oh, you want to balance it out with 600% votes? I mean, you can cheat, I guess.
Okay. All right. So we're going to use a graph service client, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna I stubbed out the class, which really just meant I copied it from another one. So I don't need our Twitch authenticator because we're not going to be authenticating to Twitch, and apparently I don't need an HTTP client either because we're not going to be using it.
In other words.
And we don't need our serialization options anymore. So what we're going to need is a graph service client.
Graph service client. That's correct. Are you using an API or are you using a function? What are you doing here?
This is a function.
You and your functions.
What's wrong with functions?
Is isolated?
No, but we can make it isolated.
Who called me and complained at like 8 p.m. crying on the
I know.
shoulder that
It was
functions
awful.
were not working? You had to use web APIs. Remember?
It was awful. I mean, I legitimately just had so much trouble with it, and it was such a pain. I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. But that was far more complex than this was. So I think that's part of the
And full disclosure, Peters, functions are awesome. You just need to know when to use them and for what.
So we got to add a package. We're gonna do a .NET add package for Microsoft Graph. I don't think I'm in the right folder because it blew up.
Do you not also need to add the auth library?
I don't think we need. I think this pulls in what it needs for us to go build our authenticator. So we've got our graph library, and here is where things get Azure Function Junction. So this is where things are going to get a little wonky. So our graph service client, which we'll go ahead and get this resolved here. Our graph service client, let's see, so we've got our client. We're going to go get, me, and then calendars, and then the string ID of our calendar. So we'll just put that in there for now. And then we're going to do a calendar view. And let's see, what does calendar view need? Oh, you're right. We can get this straight out of the Graph Explorer. We don't even have to write this code ourselves.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I forgot. So let's see. Here's our call that worked. So if we go to code snippets and then C#, so we get calendar view is me.calendars.request and then a select, and then we have query options that we need to send in. So we're going to send in our query options. We're going to send in our query options into the request object, right?
Yep.
So we'll grab this. This way we don't even have to do the bulk of this work.
Exactly. It does it for you. If you
gotta
didn't know
resolve.
about that, Graph Explorer is awesome when you want to copy code because it also pumps out JavaScript and Objective-C. And is it Java the other option? What's the other option they have there?
JavaScript, Java,
JavaScript, Objective-C,
and Objective-C.
Java, right?
Goodness gracious.
Well, we cover all the bases. Objective-C. Not even Kotlin. Not
it's interesting.
even Swift.
So where
Yeah.
are the query? Oh, so in JavaScript you just include it. It's just in the query.
Oh.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, okay, so we've got our code,
Yep.
right? So I guess we don't need any of this. Although we are going to need to generate our, we are going to have to generate our URL. So let's figure out how we're going to do that. So how are we going to
Oh, you mean
our-
for yeah.
our times? So let's see. Now is datetime UTC now. So that's easy enough.
Yep.
So our start date, for our start date, we should be able to do a now. Let's see, datetime UTC now dot add, let's see. And then we can do a toString. And then I think O, is it O that is the ISO 8601 format,
Oh,
I think?
you have to look it up. I would not dare answer that without checking the
Datetime
notes.
toString format. So there are a bunch of formats that exist for datetime toString, and you can there's a lot of shorthands that exist for them
Yep.
too. So let's see. Do we have those in this doc? Da 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 da. Let's see. Maybe
Oh,
it's
there you go.
datetime format info. Is that the one we're looking for? No.
I thought you already had it. It was in the code samples, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I guess it was in the code sample.
Yeah, they have
So-
all the letters. Scroll
O,
up.
I believe it's O. Yeah, so O O does not give us a time zone, however. It does not give us an offset.
What
What?
about the R?
R,
Oh, that
so,
doesn't work. No. So long.
so do any of these give us an offset? We may just have to append the offset ourselves, which would be okay. I wonder if we need
Gives you
to.
an offset?
It doesn't look well. None of the default formats do, but at the same time, I guess it's because a date time is ambiguous. It could be local time and it could be UTC. So there's a different one, datetime offset. I think datetime offset might be what we need to actually use.
toString. That would be the one.
So we do a datetime offset. Let's see. Is there a toString on here? There is. So datetime offset. And this does put the offset at the end. So do we have format overrides?
Do we need to override the format?
Well, I don't think we can have. So if you look at it, it displays it like this with a PM and all this sort of stuff. So what we would really want is, we kind of want ISO 8601 with the offset. I don't know if ISO 8601 includes the offset. So let's see if we get any more of these down here. Let's see. I don't see any. Here's some more examples, but these are all quite verbose, and these are more readable dates. Standard date and time format strings. That's what I was looking for.
There you go.
Okay, so these are the standard strings like O and whatever. So that's a general long. This is a general pattern. We don't want general month, day. Oh, that's the round trip pattern. That's the one I was looking for. And it looks like if it's UTC, it will use Z for UTC, and if it is not, it will include the offset in it. So it looks like O
perfect.
is still what we want, but I believe we're going to want, or we have to explicitly set the kind as datetime kind UTC on a datetime object, or we should be able to use a datetime offset and have that inferred. Because if we don't set one, we end up with an ambiguous time.
Yeah, I would say use the date time kind. I think it makes it more explicit, and then.
Or we
Yeah,
just
hold
use
for the
offset.
Okay. Well.
So we can do that one too. So let's see, datetime offset. Do we have a UTC now for that? We do. So datetime offset UTC now, toString. Okay.
Nice.
So then our end date, how long in the future do we want to go?
Remember, the calendar has next page, so 3 months.
You want to add through? So we'll do 3 months.
I think so.
Okay, so we'll do a toString, and then we'll do an O. Okay, oops. And we got our O. Good. So we got our 2 query options, and we got our calendar view. This we'll need to move this to a setting.
Yep.
Move calendar ID to setting. And then I guess we probably would want to add. We probably want to move this. Move time window to setting 2. But we can come back to that. And then I guess we could do this too. Move this to a setting. So that if we want to add more fields or we forgot one, we can always come back and fix that.
True.
So we got our calendar view. That's going to return back the JSON that we showed in the Graph Explorer, which is easy enough. And so essentially we're just going to return an OK object result with the calendar view. Calendar view. It's an RDNI collection.
Yep.
So
As it is.
it's a calendar view collection.
You could create a new, right? Do you want to create a new so you can parse it in JavaScript?
I don't know if we'll have to. Do you think we have to?
Well, let's see what we get at the back of this, and then we decide accordingly.
So this will ask. So with this, we'll ask ASP.NET to serialize it for us.
Correct.
Okay. So we've got that, which is great. Now our Graph Service Client we have to configure, and our Graph Service Client needs to be configured with some credentials.
Yep.
Now, last week what we looked at. Let's go to the Azure. Let's go to the Azure AD portal.
Now, how do we circumvent the permission issue?
That's where we have to get creative.
Yes.
This is not the right directory.
So many directories, so little time.
So, if you're doing this at home, and you're doing it with a dev tenant or with a small tenant, you could use an application permission. Now, an application permission it's definitely overprivileged, right?
Yeah.
So let's get our 425 bot here. So 425 bot. If we look at the API permissions that we would want, it's definitely elevated. So if we came to Graph, we went to app permissions and searched for calendars. The only options we have for app only are read, and it reads everybody's calendar, and nobody's going to give us that. Not to mention it also requires admin consent.
Yes.
And I don't want to read everybody's calendar.
Nope, we don't care
Bad
about
enough.
everybody else's calendar.
Yeah, bad enough looking at my own calendar. So there are kind of 2 problems. One, we would never get approval for this. And B, it's far too much privilege anyway. It's just not something that we would need. So instead, we're going to have to get, this is where the creativity part comes out. Instead, we're going to let this app read a user's shared calendars. Okay?
Yep.
The problem is we need it to do this on a regular basis, in an ongoing manner, outside of a user sitting there waiting. So we kind of are left with 3 big things that we have to do. We have to figure out a way for users to sign in and consent to read their shared calendars. We have to process their login, so essentially redeem their authorization code.
Yeah.
And we have to store their refresh token somewhere persistent. And then we will use that refresh token to get new access tokens when ours expire when we're not here. And then lastly, we'll have to notify users when their refresh token has expired. Daniel Montelli, I do not know a VS Code extension that has glitter. I do not know that.
That's yours.
Oh, but there's a glitter. The shininess, maybe?
It's partly, yeah.
This one's called Synthwave 84. I'm a big fan of it. I like it.
I've
a lot.
already responded to that.
Oh, I'm a big
That
fan.
is commenting on your theme. getting
Big
upset
fan.
now.
Big fan. Well, I mean, you could use it too.
I'm,
You don't have.
I'm getting full. No.
Although
no.
I like yours, to be quite honest. I think
We
yours
should
is
trade.
pretty good.
One day we should confuse people. Me coding in your theme and you coding in my theme.
You know what you ought to do? We ought to do that with you writing using an SDK. Or sorry, with you using an HTTP client.
Yes.
So, so what this means is while this part is, 13 lines of code, which is awesome, everything, the rest of this is going to be definitively not awesome. It's going to be painful, but that's okay because that's why we're here. If it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. So, we're going to have to get pretty creative with how we get our graph service client. Now, our graph service client is going to need, our graph service client needs an iAuthentication provider.
Yes.
So, we're going to add a singleton, which is going to be our graph service client. Our graph service client is going to need an iAuthentication provider, which is how the this is how the graph service client gets
Authenticated
tokens.
against Azure AD, right?
Yep.
So we can do stuff.
So we're going to use Microsoft Graph here. Graph. We can add, I guess, singleton here too. So we're going to have to configure this iAuthentication provider. Now, we've written a few MSAL providers in the past. Our MSAL provider this time is going to have to be a little bit more dramatic, we'll say, because we're going to have our cache, and our cache will store somewhere. I'm going to use table storage for just for today because it's pretty lightweight data. So we're going
We
to
have
have
a library for that already, right?
to.
We have the code for it.
Oh yeah. We get some of this code I've got from an earlier project. So let's figure out how we are going to store this stuff. Create a new folder, maybe. Let's
Folder?
see.
Do you have that much code?
It's a lot of code. So we'll call this delegated MSAL headless. We should probably make this its own project because then I could just reference it and we'd be done, right? So the first thing we're going to need is we need something that's going to create our. Essentially, we're going to need like an MSAL. We're going to need like an MSAL factory.
Yes.
And there's a reason for this. So do we even have identity client in here? .NET.
I doubt it. I don't think you pulled it in.
package. Microsoft identity client. So the thing about MSAL caching is that MSAL caching, you don't actually write the token cache yourself. Instead, the token cache you hook into events that are essentially notifications that say, "Hey, I'm about to access the cache," or I have just accessed the cache," and because of that, you hook into those objects or hook into those events, and then you either persist the data, you get some serialized, or you get some bytes that you go and persist, or you go get some bytes and hand those bytes back to MSAL, and MSAL handles the rest. So you don't actually have to get in the middle of messing around with the serialization itself, or the data that's in the cache. All you have to worry about is
Hooking the
the data that's in the cache. So hooking into the events and handling persistence in and out. The problem, however, is that if I redeem an authorization code, because my cache needs to be per user, right? In a confidential client application, which is what this is, your cache needs to be per user. Something's happening to my children out there. I don't know what, but somebody is screaming.
Do you need to investigate? Somebody's being killed?
No.
Oh wow.
It's probably-
a little crying there.
My wife is with them. I can't wait for vacation, I'll be clear.
Oh dude, I feel you.
Because they've been out of school for 3 days?
A week. Yeah.
4 days. Anyway, so when you create the MSAL object, we have to have our user ID that we're going to use as our key. Our user ID key has to be essentially set up front. Once we've already gone through an authorization and once we've tried to redeem a token, it's too late. It means that we can't go and change that cache key, so we have to set it up front. The second half of that problem is that it means we have to essentially generate a fake identifier and then map those two together afterward when we do the redemption, because we don't know what the problem, or we don't know who the user is until after they've signed in. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's look at a few things to start. Now I've got some other code that's up here that I'm going to use. So the first thing is, let's go back to our function. And the first thing we need to do is generate an authorization URL. We generate an authorization URL, which is essentially where our user is going to go and sign in. So let's see, stream overlay data. I know, it's completely
Sounds like my
ridiculous.
daughters every day.
I know.
It's insane.
Well, the oldest one is 7, and the littlest one is 2.5, and they just, I don't know, they're kids, I guess. It's just what they do. I don't think this needs to be, we'll keep it async for now. So we need an iAction result, and this will be, we'll just call this authorize. And this will be we're going to send a user to this link. We're going to send a user to this path. So this has got an HTTP trigger. Authorization level on this one's going to be anonymous. And we're going to only accept gets here because we're not going to be doing any posts from here. Let me carriage return this guy here. And the other thing we want to do is set the root. So I guess for this root, what should we set? You want to call this graph/authent or graph/authorize perhaps?
Graph authorize, I think it goes with the standard, right?
And then that's of type
then-
HTTP. Yeah, okay. HTTP request rec. So in here we're going to need our MSAL object, and MSAL has a really cool thing called generate authorization URL, and it's just going to give us an authorization URL that we're going to use. So we're going to generate an authorization URL, and then we're going to redirect. We'll just return a redirect result, and we'll just return a redirect to that authorization URL. Now, of course, as those things tend to go, we have to have a callback. So we're going to get our graph authorization callback. And this is where we're going to actually process the return trip. So it's an iAction result, and we'll call this, I guess we'll just call it authorization callback. Why not? This is going to have an HTTP trigger as well. And this is going to accept a post. So this is authorization level anonymous. This is going to accept a post. And our root for this one, which is the root that we're going to have to give this thing, we'll call this auth, and we'll just call this callback. This root is the one that will process the token when it gets back. So in here, we're going to need to get an MSAL client, and we're going to have to redeem the authorization code, and then write to cache. All right, makes sense?
Absolutely. I'm with you.
All right. So now we got to dig into how we actually get our MSAL client. This is where things are going to get a little dicey. So going back to what we had before, we've got, we're going to store our data in tables, but we'll come back around to that in a minute. So I'm going to get my MSAL client factory, and I've already written this client factory, but we'll take a look at what's in here. So our MSAL client factory handles essentially creating MSALs when we need them with the specific string key, essentially the key that we give it, right? Because the cache has to be keyed on the specific user, because my cache is different from your cache, right?
Yep. Yeah.
If we weren't to key on the user, then we'd end up with one really big cache that has everyone who's signed in with the same. We'd all be inside the same cache,
Yeah.
which isn't by itself necessarily problematic, but you'd end up with the cache being too large. You'd end up with, you don't really want tokens commingling. Granted, if you
Technically, there will only be one user signing in, right? Or are you saying if we start reusing this this app or this bot, it will become larger as more people sign in and they check their shared calendars?
Yeah, I mean there is only one, which would be me or you for now, but we would still run the risk of either a cache getting too large if we ever decided we wanted to turn this into a service or something,
Yeah.
or we'd end up with the problem of multiple people's tokens being inside the same cache, which, generally speaking, is not really a thing that you'd not
like
really a
gremlins.
thing you'd want to do. Yeah.
The cache gremlins, you don't want to feed them
Yep.
at their own time. Yeah.
So we've got our client factory. It's going to expect two things, which are MSAL options and a token cache assessor. And the token cache assessor is the thing that actually handles the persistence. And we're going to build our table token cache assessor here in a minute. But all this really does is just create MSAL based on some configuration. When we need to handle the cache configuration, the cache configuration happens with this add per user token cache. So our token cache is going to be responsible for hooking into those events. And what we're also going to be adding here essentially is the identifier. The identifier is the cache ID that we need, because we can't use, like I said, we can't use a common cache. We have to use a per user cache. The MSAL folks have told us, like, if you're doing confidential apps, like a web app or whatever, you got to use a per user token cache.
Per user token. Yep.
In a web app, this is a little bit easier, because in the web app, you're signed in and we know who you are over the course of multiple requests. And we can create a new MSAL for each user that comes in. In this case, where we've got this sort of pseudo headless thing that's going to be making calls on our behalf after we're gone, that's why we have to go this route. And so that's all this really does, is just create clients. Everything about the clients themselves is pretty normal. We've got a client ID, we've got a redirect URI, we've got our tenant, our certificate if we're using a certificate. Otherwise, we use a client secret. And so this is really the bulk of what this is. Going to do. So we're going to use our MSAL client factory in our MSAL client factory is going to be here. So we'll just call this a client factory, or we'll call this MSAL factory, and we'll give us a read-only one here. MSAL client factory, MSAL factory. I wish you could like create a snippet to do these, to auto wire these up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's pretty annoying. Okay. So we've got our MSAL factory. So in here, we do an MSAL factory, and we're going to create with a transient identity, because we don't yet know what it's going to be, and the transient identity we'll use is just going to be a GUID. So call this a transient identity, and we'll just use a GUID.
Of course.
Because why not?
GUID is the answer.
So we got our transient identity. Now, I mean, you could also ask the user for something, maybe if you wanted to say, like, hey, give us your username or something. But I don't know. That seems a little... since we're going to be using that as a cache key, we kind of don't want to leave anything to chance, Certainly don't want to leave anything up to a user. So our MSAL client, we'll get our MSAL client out of this. And then what we'll end up with is MSAL has this get authorization request URL. And this will take all the configuration that's in there, and then we have to give it the scopes that we want. So the scopes that we need for this are going to be calendar.read Or was it calendar read shared? I don't remember what it was now. Do you remember?
I think it was calendar shared read. You want to check it?
Yep. Calendars.read.shared.
Ah,
Calendars, plural.
calendars.
So we're going to need that. So this is our redirect URL. And then we're going to return a redirect. Do we have a redirect result? Oh, we do. Good. New redirect result to the redirect URL. And it doesn't like that. Because, let's see. Oh, do I need to await this? Is this awaitable? Let's see. Get authorization request URL returns. Oh, that's right. We got to do like a, what is it, an execute async, something like that on it?
Yeah, you need to call it right.
Yep. Execute async. Cool. So this gives us, and then this is a URI, so we'll do a toString. Interesting that a redirect result does not take a URI, but it does take a string, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So this will handle redirecting our users, and so when we run this, we will get sent over to our. When we run this, we will get sent over to our to sign in. So we'll do sign in and consent at this point, right? So then when we come back, we're going to have to get our MSAL again. So we'll do MSAL, and that's MSAL factory create. MSAL factory, let me check. That's auth start, auth end. I guess there are a few things we need to check first. So the first thing is, in our request, we're going to have to look for a query string, or sorry, not a query string parameter. I guess we'll have it in the query, or we will have it in the form body for code. So if we don't have an authorization code, then we want to return. Essentially, it's a bad request. So we'll just do. I guess we'll just do a bad request result.
Yeah.
We'll do an object here, new bad request object result, and we'll just give it a message of
Missing.
no code return.
Yep.
No code in request. Okay. So we've got. I guess if we're doing form post, we really shouldn't get it in the query string at all. It should only be a form post. So form, and then the form field is code, yep. So if this is, well, why doesn't it like that? Ambiguous between, is ambiguous on type of string value and null.
Well, why do you not do a string dot is null or empty?
I guess we do that too. Well, so this is that like string value stuff that was in ASP.NET. So rec, would that be like if code doesn't exist, so I need to do like a contains key first? Form, I guess we'll do a contains key and then code.
Mm-hmm.
So if it does not contain a key, then we can return our bad request because that's
Correct.
bad request.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if the form, so at this point this should work because we've checked to see if the key is there. So if the key's not there, then this should not blow up, right?
Correct.
So if the code value, however, is empty, then that's going to be a failure as well. So
Correct.
we'll do, this is where we'll do string is, I don't know what happened here. String is null or empty.
Oh wow. Pops up a new code.
Yeah, I think I hit a button. So
The magic
if-
shortcut that you don't know how to do it. Like my kids once, I think when the little one was once, he pressed something on the keyboard, and I couldn't revert it.
Oh,
It
I
was
remember
persistent.
people would go and hit like control left and right, which on the old Intel stuff would rotate your screen 90 degrees. Okay.
And once of them deleted my OneDrive directory,
Oh no, really?
and I freaked out.
Oh no.
Uh,
It's awful.
luckily, it was not. Oh, what is Bold is saying? Is null or empty, or is null or white space? Is white space useful in this application?
I think so.
Empty takes into consideration the white space, doesn't it?
I don't think empty does. I think empty is only, like, I think white space is inclusive of empty. So white space includes
Oh, I
empty. Yeah. So we'll do is null or white space, because yeah, if it just ends up being a bunch of string or a bunch of spaces, that's going to be a problem too.
True.
So now we need our MSAL factory, and we are going to create. So let's see.
Yeah, go for it. Bold is saying not equals, but I'm saying no, it's fine because he's returning a bad code. So we don't have to enclose all the codes into brackets, which is easier like that. I like it this way.
Wait,
So
sorry.
as soon as, yeah, the way that you've done your if logic there. It's good.
Yeah,
Just,
like
keep going.
if it's bad, I want to get out as quickly as we can, right?
Exactly.
I think it's maybe my brain is simpleton, but I like to okay, give me something clean to work with, and if you're not clean when you get here, then see ya. So we're going to create again with the transient identity because we don't have a transient identity. What?
Shorthand doesn't work for us, Bolt. We need more coffee or drink. He was saying that, sorry, I was specifying empty string is not the same as white space. Thank you.
It's true.
Yes, true. But he used shorthand. That's why I got confused.
Okay. Yeah, so white is null or white space is true if it is null, string.empty, or purely white space characters.
Perfect. Superset of.
Yep. So we've got
I
everything.
like it.
So that should give us everything. So we're going to create it with we're going to create a new transient identity because we don't have an identity just yet. So we've got our, in fact, let's give this, we're going to give this a thing here. So we'll call this the transient identity. Oops, transient identity. And we'll just do a gwid.newGwid. If we had done a new GUID, then we'd have a default GUID, which is definitely not unique. Bunch of zeros.
Deep cyber athlete. Deep cyber athlete. Man, I need to get better in reading these tweets names. Deep cyber athlete says, "Why don't you do if? Why don't you combine both? If
Yeah, we can do that too. That's fine.
or yeah,
Yeah, because the two pipes will exit on the first false, so that's fine. We could. That's fine. I did it for the sake of
simplicity.
sake of simplicity. But we could also create a single bad request object and then get rid of it.
I wonder if the IL language will compile both into the same thing. You know,
Good
in the end.
question.
So it doesn't
I bet
really
they will.
matter.
I bet they will.
Yeah,
We
no
can go
worries,
look.
man.
What's the matter with GUIDs, Bolt? Bolt says we're grinding his gears with our GUIDs right now. Are we grinding your GUIDs? Are we GUIDing your gears?
We haven't used a single GUID yet. Wait, I don't think it's us. I think it's something else. Deep-rooted hate for GUIDs.
Okay, so we've got our MSTyle object, and now we end up in acquire token by authorization code. And the funniest thing about this is we don't actually need the token right now. We really just need to persist the token. That's the only thing we actually need to do. So when we acquire this token by authorization code, we're going to have our scopes. So that's a new array of string. And that's going to be calendars.read.shared, or calendars.shared.read. Or no. This should also be
You're
a
not
setting.
going to store it in an object?
Yeah, we'll have to move this. We'll move this to a setting because this is the only one. This is the only one we need right now. But
No, I was thinking about the result of the acquired token by authorization needs to be assigned to a property, right? Paper. Yeah.
for what we're doing, in all honesty, all we need to do is an execute on it. And at this point,
Okay.
at this point, it's Jesus take the wheel, please.
The confidence in your code, I love it.
Please get this. Please get this cash. The thing is,
It's all, it's all you.
in this method, we don't actually need. We don't actually need the token yet.
Okay.
but we are going to need it shortly. But at this exact moment, we don't need it. But we do need it to be cached somewhere persistent, so that when we need it, we can go back and get it from the cache.
Yes.
And so we could actually just do something like this and just await the call and let it happen. And then let's see, okay, we'll just do the okay result. We don't need to tell somebody that it was successful. We could also generate some HTML or something and, you know, put this in there. So this is going to acquire the token by the authorization code. It doesn't like that, though. What does it not like? Oh, the code, duh, of course. I'd like for you to acquire an authorization code without having the code. So that's going to be our form value.
Yep.
So I guess we'll just do this. Rec form code. Since, I mean, I don't think we're going to need it anywhere else, but I kind of feel like we may have to do some more. We may have to do some more checks on this thing.
Yeah.
So we've got our code.
What will happen if you run it?
Okay, so we got our code, although it doesn't like the code because
It's not in the right format. What does it expect?
it's expecting a string, but I think we're still dealing with this whole string values stuff, right? Yeah,
Is it dot value maybe?
I think it's just. I think you just string it. This is a this whole string values thing. I've never been super comfortable or understanding of.
Still nothing?
Oh, I got a semicolon at the end. That's why. Sorry. That's operator error. So acquire token by authorization code. Somebody has a golf ball. That's only going to end poorly upstairs, I'm sure.
Getting new floor soon?
Just got new floors. No, someone. I have a feeling that golf ball is going to end up sailing across the room at a high rate of speed.
And at some window. Terminating at some window.
So we should get. So this acquire token by authorization code. Here are our scopes. We've got our code. In theory, this is purely a theory thing. This is where we are going to have something in the cache. Now, when we created our MSAL object for the factory, we created it with this transient identity, right?
Yes.
Now, because we've signed in, now the user has... yes, Bolt, they did come back finally. They weren't my friends. Oh, you mean the guy's friends. Yeah, they finally came back. And then the lady called us, the lady that owns the place called us, and she's like, I just wanted to let you guys know that one of the guys who was there, we think he might have a drug problem. I was like, okay. I was like, that's cool. Like, I mean, he was fine when he was here. He did good work while he was here. Like, she's like, well, we really thought you should know. And I was like, well, I mean, whatever. He left me alone and he did good work, so I don't really care, but I guess they felt like they needed to tell us. I was kind of like, is that really your business to share? I don't know.
I know. Why would you disclose that? Especially if there were no issues with the end result and they were good at their work.
Yeah, it was a little...
That's awful to do as an employer, but please don't do that.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty strange. So, okay, so at this point... Yeah, sorry, so that was a heavy slight diversion. Okay, so at this point we've redeemed our code and should have an account in the cache. So, let's go get that account out of the cache. So let's go do a get accounts async. Now, ideally we should have one. In fact, has this already been deprecated? It has been.
Yes, I hate that. They've deprecated that API call, and it makes your life a living hell.
Well, and I think that's what
account async. You need to know the account.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of annoying about it. Is it's like, you need to know the account in order to get the account.
Get to the account.
So what we'll do is,
if I know the account, what's the point of knowing the account? You need to pass the identifier, which is, I don't know where you get it from. Go for it.
so we can get it from the redemption result. So let's go to the redemption result, which is our MSAL acquisition. So in here we have our redemption result. This should have an account oops, an account on it with a home account ID with an identifier. So we can take this identifier and we can actually get the account itself. It's
the
a
account to
circus.
begin with. Yeah. That's fine.
So
Beautiful, says Bolt. I know. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful.
okay. So we've got our account. Now the last thing that we need to do for our cache is, remember, we created our cache with a transient identity before.
Yep.
Because we didn't have a real identity. Well, now we've got to switch it from the transient identity to the actual identity. And so here, this is why we have this switch transient key to actual method, which really just does copy. It really just does a copy from one to the other, but with a different key. So the two keys that we need, we're going to have our transient identity key. And then we're going to have our new identity key. And our new identity key we will use...
account, right?
Yep. For our new... Uh-oh, what's going on over here? Oh no. Oh no. Oh, God almighty. I just hate summertime. I'm so done with summertime.
Well, are the kids playing Alexa and it came to your Alexa?
Yes, they are.
At least they had a good choice of song. Could have been Eminem or something.
I guess. I guess so.
Oh, so it says, can you wrap all this in an extension method called msal.callThesis with the code?
I think actually that's probably a really good idea, Bolt. We should do that.
I
So now
still
we.
want to see the code running, and you only have 10 minutes left, so let's see.
So what we'll do then is we're just going to return back. We should probably like return some HTML or something, but for now, we'll just return. Let's just return whether or not the transfer was successful. So the
Okay.
transfer. So if we've made it to transfer, this needs to be an OK object result. If we've made it all the way to transfer, that means that we got a token, we created a cache, and we've transferred the cache from the home key, or sorry, from the transient storage key to the other key.
Account key. Yep, the proper account key.
All right,
Let's
so-
sit.
So let's get our storage. I got to get storage emulator running. I need to switch to Azurite.
Yeah, man.
Everybody says so many good things about it.
We're gonna use Azurite before. Then it's the storage emulator that runs cross-platform. It's open source, and it rocks.
Okay, so we've got our two graph authentication things here. Put some little. I guess we'll just do some little breakpoints. We do still have the 800 number BSD guy. We just haven't figured out a way to do a call-in show that we could bleep people if they said things that were inappropriate. Okay, so we've got our MSAL factory.
Man, Azurite is fast. I spun it up. It took seconds. It's
Yeah?
Christos Creek. Well, what do you think?
Half.
Does my Scottish accent give me away? Yes, I'm Greek. Half Greek, half Scottish.
Is that just well? So what does that make you? How much American does that make you? Because you said you were in Greece for a while, then Scotland for a while, and then America for a while.
We could go with percentages, right? So out of the 43 years of my life, 20 years in Greece, 20 years in Scotland, and then 3 years in the US. Therefore, if you do the math, I think I'm about 6% or almost 8% Greek.
No,
Who
American.
needs math anyway, right?
Clearly, you are 600% Greek.
I'm 600% American, 150% Greek,
and 3,000% flat Earth.
Yes. Oh, we got. Oh, he's a geek. So deep cyber athlete is a geek.
Hey, Exagit IO and
Ah,
Bolt said
back.
100% beard, which you are too. It's probably a little bit more than 100% right now, don't you think?
yeah, it extends throughout my body. Extremely hairy. Apart from
little-
the place that matters, you know, up here.
It's a little extra.
Thinner. It's a little extra, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
much hair.
It's good. No, it's fine.
Yeah, man,
It's good.
thanks. It's been 3 years in the making. Actually, 3 years? 2 years in the making.
Nice. Okay, so our MSAL factory still needs a couple things before we can move on. We need our MSAL options objects. We need options. Options, you know.
Oh, yeah, we need
you know,
options.
We need options
need
for
options.
secrets. And we need something that's going to actually access the token cache. We haven't implemented our token cache yet. So we still got to do that.
You can't even fake it.
I mean,
you have to
we could have-
implement the whole thing.
We could have written tests, I guess.
You know what? In the year and a
felt
half
so
that
inclined.
we've been coding, we have written 0. And when I say 0, I mean 0 with a proper 0 tests. We need to get better in our TDD. Man, I hate TDD.
I guess. Yeah, I do too. I had a place where that was the only way you could.
Prerequisites.
Yeah, it was the only way you could write code, and I mean, I could appreciate what it was there for, but oh boy, it was rough.
Hey, I like my tests after I write my code. Null tests. Yeah, exactly. You get null. No. I like tests, but I usually I write the code, I make it work, and then I write the test to validate and confirm the hypothesis. So that's my approach. Don't TDD me. These are amazing for verifying defects. I don't know how to write tests if I don't know what my code is going to do. It's like backwards thing is like doing a puzzle without knowing what the puzzle should be. And my brain's not wired like that. If TDD is for you, then by all means, go and do it. But I don't know. Chasing the green, apparently.
Okay.
It's called.
So-
Certificates? Are you gonna get a
We
certificate?
well, we can use a certificate. We'll also use a client. We'll probably use a client secret for dev, but good to be equipped for both, right?
With all the statements that Bolt is making lately, I am concerned about working with him. I know he's just trolling us right now, but can you imagine? Just write all the tests, but only assert 1 = 1, so the DevOps guys are happy.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but like you see that in SQL a lot. Is you'll see all these people
Yeah.
that have like select blah blah blah, select star from table where 1 = 1. You're like, what?
Yes.
Like, why do I need this?
I am
Okay.
SQL injecting myself. Before you do it, sucker.
Okay, so we've got our. I'm gonna go grab my token cache assessor contract from over here, just so we don't have to write it again. There's not a whole lot in here, so. Okay, so our token cache assessor. This is what we need to go and implement, and this is the thing that MSAL uses for actually persisting cache, right? So. Table, we'll use, let's see, table storage token cache assessor. And that's going to implement token cache assessor. Oops. No. Token cache assessor. There we go. So we'll go ahead and get these stubs put out. So after access and before access, these are the two like real ones, right? These are the ones that deal with. These are the ones that deal with actually persisting the stuff, right? So this is the stuff that's gonna either write to table storage or read from table storage.
Yeah.
So before an access is pretty much MSAL saying, "Hey, I'm about to access the cache, so I need."
We
cache.
already have that code, JP, don't we? Are you rewriting it from scratch?
No, I'm not. I will grab it from my other table token. You know what? I should make this in assembly. Like this needs to be.
You should make it a library and you
needs
get
to be-
packets. Not that you know, Not that you know how to do them.
Yeah, it really needs to be a. It really needs to be a NuGet package. I think you're right. So we got this user cache keys. We're gonna have to set this up too. This is how we're gonna set these. Table storage token cache assessor. So our oops. Some days I feel like I've
Yeah,
forgotten how to
we
write
should
code.
definitely make this a library and just tag it to any MSAL
Yep.
objects that we create.
Wonder if we can make it an extension to MSAL. That'd be kind of cool.
Extension. Yeah, but then again, how are you going to distribute it? Is it still going to be a NuGet package?
Of course, why not?
Access an extension?
Sure, why not? We could do the whole thing as an extension method, just like Bolt said. Actually, we could do a couple things. We could do an extension for Azure Functions or for anything. It doesn't have to be Azure Functions. We could do an extension method on MSAL that handles creating the authorization URL and wiring all that up and then processing the code when it comes back in. We could do all of that. So like functions.add MSAL authentication or whatever, you know? Might be kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something to consider anyway.
So many ideas. Well, put them in the backlog, my friend.
Yeah.
Now that I have a backlog.
Yeah, we don't have a. I guess it's true. We don't have a backlog. So, okay. So we're gonna have our configuration because remember we're gonna call this ourselves. So the cache key can't be read only because we're gonna do it down here, and our configuration is gonna take our cache key, and here's where we're gonna set our cache key. So user cache key. Oops. User cache key is the cache key. And then we are also going to need we're also going to need our table itself. So we're going to have to inject our tables. We're going to have to inject our table from wherever we get it. But it's 12:59, so we have to go. Do we have anybody that we want to go raid today? Raid votes. Raid votes.
Joel is doing it. Then we have
Jeff?
RWX Rob. Rockstar is on as well. Jeff,
Okay.
I think, usually wraps up around this time. So the last time that we raided, he was only on for 5 minutes, then he left.
All right. Well, let's go to Rockstar then.
Let's go to Rockstar.
Let's go see what he's
Dan
working
is a
on today.
fantastic friend of ours. He's doing some cool stuff with Node.
Yep.
So let's do Rockstar.
Tomorrow, our IT Pro friends are going to be back. Friday, we're going to be working on. We can work more on this and figure out our calendar stuff and get this wrapped up on Friday. Next week, I'm on vacation. Christos will be here. He's got some friends coming too. Join us in Discord. Send us email if you have any issues or trouble. Let's see,
Twitter.
Rocketman2112. If you're watching, I will respond to your email this week. And hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day. Turnaround time for emailing us for you and
A couple of days, usually?
couple of days usually. It's not too bad. So anyway, hey, thanks everybody. We're gonna dip out of here and we'll see you soon. Bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.